What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-hosts, Matt Llewellyn and Mike Andrews. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. I know it's a little later and during the week, so we appreciate all you guys staying up late to catch this one. We will be recapping the 49ers' 27-10 victory over the Washington Commanders and breaking down them securing the number one seed in the NFC playoffs. It was a hell of a weekend. Everything that needed to go right for the 49ers did go right. But before I toss it over to the guys, if you're tuning in on X, make sure you like and retweet the post. I guess it's repost now, no longer tweets. We can see your comments now. So comment in the live streams in X. If you prefer to go over to YouTube, youtube.com/49ers Hive, youtube.com/Niners. Hit like, hit subscribe, comment your thoughts. We want to hear them. Now that I got that mouthful out, Matt, how you doing tonight?
Listen, the 49ers let us go out with a bang. 2023, closing it up with the number one seed. They got a little help from the Arizona Cardinals, some bird-on-bird crime. Love seeing Philadelphia in shambles. And it overall, great way to end 2023. We go into 2024, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to make a deep playoff run.
Exactly. It was great. Mike, how you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. Happy to be on with you guys, man. Ready to recap a beautiful win, right? Sniffing range for me, man. I probably, if I didn't have anything to do, I probably should have gone to that game, but I had a lot to do that day, and we had a great time. Happy New Year's, by the way, to everybody watching, and you two fellas.
Happy New Year's. Exactly. It was a great one. I hope everybody out there had a good, safe New Year's Eve going celebrate in 2024. So let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. I know it's late since she's trying to stay awake. Appreciate you. The 49ers started off a little slow in this one. Opened up. It was a great opening drive right down the field. And then the drive kind of just stalls, and the 49ers have to settle for a 38-yard field goal, which Moody, I don't know if you guys remember this one, almost missed. He made it, but he just barely hooked it right in that right upright. Mike, now we're not going to dive too closely into this, but what did you think of that first drive? Everybody's like, oh, the 49ers are going to blow out the Commanders. The red zone defense held well against 49ers offense. Did you take anything away from that?
Yeah, I feel like the team came out with really good energy. I liked the way that they looked early on. And like you said, they kind of stalled out a little bit there. I didn't have any major concerns. And even with Moody's kick, his body language kind of tells you what he expects the ball to do right after he kicks it. If you watch him, like his shoulders right after the kick, like you can tell if he thinks it's going to go in or if it's going to be one of those like type of things. Like he kind of like gets a little squeamish and all that. I like that in the rookie. He's probably my second favorite rookie kicker this year. Second favorite.
Who's the first?
Aubrey for the Cowboys. That kid. I think it's because they just give him the opportunities to kick the 58ers and all that. Like we don't even attempt them here. And I don't know why, when all camp, all we heard was about, he made a 64-yarder with 4 yards to spare. He can go out there and set the NFL record this year. And Kyle doesn't even, like, to me, it seems like he doesn't even think about it. And I think he should do it during the regular season. Hopefully we get some practice this upcoming game, right? But he should let him try it before he has to do it in the playoffs, like for a game winner. Like, let the kid get the nerves out and have the confidence that I can do it, So.
Agreed. It is crazy to think that this team now can go weeks without kicking a field goal. Like it seemed like with again, not to go back to the Jimmy Garoppolo days, but it's like I'm just so used to this team having those like 13-10, 17-9 grind out victories, but we don't really see that from this team. And when they win, I think I saw something like all of their wins have been by double digits this year, except for the Rams because they kicked that field goal right as time expired. Right. Matt, what did you think of this first quarter, this opening up? 49ers ended it with 10 points after the second drive.
Yeah, it was a nice little first quarter. I think that they left some stuff out on the table. I thought that there could have been a little bit more. They didn't come out as sharp as I was hoping that they would, but it wasn't like they were in any danger of falling behind or anything like that, particularly after they got the 3-and-out on the Commanders' first series. So it looked like, and I even said in the chat or whatever, I was like, dude, this Washington offense has nothing for our defense. Like, they're not good at all. At one point, though, right after that, they had a pretty big drive. So it kind of like made me, okay.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was Nice bounce back. You wanted to see some mistake-free football, and we didn't quite get that, but it looked a lot more like what the 49ers are used to doing rather than what we saw against Baltimore. All in all, I think a nice bounce back overall for the offense in that first quarter.
I agree with that 100%. It was nice to see Brock Purdy specifically get back to the brand of football we're so used to him playing. It is a shame that he went all year having 9 interceptions, with most of them coming in that like 3-week span. And then, of course, he throws 4 on Christmas night. It is what it is. He's still through, I believe his season numbers are like 31 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. If you would have told me that this year, we 100% all would have taken it, I'm sure. Before we get into that a little more, we got a super chat from our guy Gray Fox 198. Hey fellas, I want to shout out Jed York. He nuked everything in 2017, brought Kyle and John, and has let them do their thing while paying for anything they need. Kudos to you, Jed. Mike, you're one of the first I ever saw giving Jed. You had that post.
It's still pinned.
It's still pinned.
It's still pinned. I have not removed it. Yeah, I've given Jed York a lot of credit. I know that he was young, given the position. He trusted Trent Baalke to a fault. And I think he learned from his ways quickly. And one thing that the reason I gave him the credit was he would hire someone while paying 2 other coaches. All right, you're not it. 1 year out, I'll pay you for another next 4 years, like your contract said. Next guy, okay, you're not the guy either. And he kept trying. And more importantly, he hired another GM, and just stepped back. And that's when I decided to give him praise. It was during this hire for this regime here. You could just see what he was doing. I don't want to be this guy anymore. Let them handle football operations and let me trust them. He never put pressure on them to get a quarterback or anything like that. He didn't meddle at all. You're going to go out there and get an offensive-minded guy for the offense. I like that. And then you go and get a defensive-minded GM. That's as much balance as you're going to get. And then you don't meddle with anything. Kudos to Jed York. Absolutely.
Especially when you see other owners out there throwing drinks on opposing fans. David Tepper, what the hell are you doing? I saw you just got fined $300,000. You're down 4 scores. Your team is horrible. You don't have a pick in the first round, and that's what you're upset over? I mean, maybe it was a accumulation of everything. I don't know. But let's get back to this game and this season. Brock Purdy. Matt, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a slight. Well, the David Tepper thing, his apology was complete horse crap. I mean, he was like, "Oh, next time I'll have security deal with it." What deal with what? A fan being a fan and like heckling you a little bit for having a bad team? That's nothing to even get in a fluff over, unless the shoe fits and truth hurts. So he's probably mad about that. And then just a quick correction for you, Zach. Brock Purdy only has 11 interceptions on the season, not 13.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah,
so he had 7 going into the Ravens game and then threw the 4. But so it's a little better than we thought.
Yeah. I pulling up his full season stats here. So he's going to finish this year.
Cool.
He's going to finish this year with 4,200 and was it 2,080 yards, which is a 49ers franchise record. He surpassed Jeff Garcia's record that stood for like 21 years or something crazy like that. 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, like you said, Matt. Pass rating of 113 and QBR of 72.7. That pass rating is extremely high, and I believe it was the highest. It's the highest since it's been tracked, or maybe since Aaron Rodgers a couple years ago. I had the stat in front of me, but I must have lost it. But let's just get into the setting the franchise record in passing yards on 120 less attempts than Jeff Garcia did. I know I saw people say, well, of course it's a passing league, 17 games, yada, yada, yada. He did it in 16 and in less attempts. So it just screams to his efficiency. But Matt, I'm going to throw it back to you. If somebody told you back in August, these are going to be Brock Purdy's numbers, what would you have thought?
Well, and again, not to correct you again, but Deebo Samuel was on Up and Adams today, and he basically said that the starters are going to at least start the game against the Rams. So Purdy will have opportunity to extend that even more. But I don't know. There are people out there that will glaze quarterbacks on other teams, glaze their glizzy or whatever the kids are saying these days. Oh, Lamar Jackson this and Lamar Jackson that, and Dak Prescott this or Dak Prescott that, but they don't want to give Purdy his props. It'll be like, oh, well, I mean, the 49ers passing record, it's not even that good, it's a fitted hat, by the way. Yeah, not even that good. It's not that many yards or whatever. I think it was a big deal that he got it in 16 games rather than 17, so that way nobody can really say anything. At the same time, when you look at the fact that he's done it I think he's at 440 passing attempts or somewhere around there. It's 100 less than what Jeff Garcia was able to do, like Zach said. That makes all the difference in the world. And if you actually look at the 4,280 yards and divide that by his passing attempts, he's actually averaging 9.6 yards per attempt, which would be, I think there was a stat floated around, that would be the highest yards per attempt for any quarterback with over 400 attempts on the season. So that would be something to kind of hang your hat on. And it just goes to show that, yeah, we've had teams that have gotten pretty far. NFC Championship game, we got to a Super Bowl in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo, but at the same time, Brock Purdy just gives us that little extra. It's like when you put together a really good meal and there's something off, right? Brock Purdy just adds that little bit of spice that you need to round everything out. And so I've been very impressed. I think that the back and forth, is he good or is he a system guy, takes away from the fact that this is a dude that was the last pick in the draft and he's coming in his second season and breaking records. That's just something that we have to enjoy, something we have to tip our hat to and acknowledge. And it's something that I'm very happy to see. I really feel like we actually have a good quarterback now, that we haven't had since Jeff Garcia, really. I mean, everybody since then, it's just been kind of like, Alex Smith had promise, but he really didn't open up until he left and went to Kansas City. Kaepernick got us to a Super Bowl, but that was just kind of a flash in the pan. And now that's not to say that Brock Purdy won't end up being a flash in the pan. That's very well possible. But with the way that Brock Purdy plays, I just don't see that being the case. I don't know. I finally have hope that we have a guy that'll be here for years and years to come.
Yeah, 100%. And I really do think that, Big Papas is here. He's definitely on the right trajectory. And that's the main thing. Go ahead, Mike.
He said defiantly, and I don't know if he meant that or not. And so, because it's both. It's both. As the Mr. Irrelevant, like he's defying the odds, right? Like I like the way that he said. I don't know if he meant to say it that way or if he meant definitely, but it works both ways. It works both ways. And one of you, I don't remember which one you just said it, but he did it in 16. That's what I wanted to see. Everything else is bonus. When I'm looking at like franchise records being set, I'm judging it off of 16 games only. Everything else is a bonus. And he's doing his thing out there. I'm really, really proud of the young man. He's doing great.
Mike Ben asks, are you surprised with all our crushing stats or anything that surprised you about us? Apparently there's an us. There's a you.
No, I am not surprised. One thing that I have learned is that I have to absolutely trust Kyle Shanahan with his decision making. And we were up in arms about the Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, and then it was like, oh, you're gonna get rid of both of them and go with Brock Purdy. Like he better be the guy, right? It's like, Kyle, you can't mess this up, and he didn't. He knocked it out the park, man. Brock Purdy is the real deal, like Kyle said to start the season.
It's so just, and I've actually taken a page out of Mike's book and try not to watch any other content because it is kind of like hard to come and do a show, but I'm just such a fan of the Niners that it's hard. So one of the few shows that I still watch and I really enjoy is Guy Haberman and John Middlecoff. And I saw Guy Haberman talking about it. He's like, it was so disingenuous for people to sit in front of their computers back in July and August and tell people that this should be an open competition, that Trey Lance earned that right and Brock Purdy didn't earn the starting gig. Like everything we saw last year from him with almost no preparation going into the season and then played well in the playoffs when it matters most, when rookie quarterbacks usually struggle the most, and then got his arm torn off at the elbow, like in rehab all off season. It was just such a joke that people were out there saying this should be an open competition. Purdy hasn't proved anything. And boy, has not only Purdy, but like you said, Mike, Kyle and Purdy proved everybody wrong. They proved everybody wrong. And every single person would have killed for these numbers if you told them in July whoever was under center for the 49ers is going to throw for 4,280, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. We'd all love that. We'd absolutely all love it, especially on the attempts. I mean, Throwback breaks it down here. 444 attempts, averaging 9.6 yards per attempt, like Matt said. In 2000, Jeff Garcia had 4,278 yards, 561 attempts, averaged 7.6 yards per attempt. Young in 98, 441.70 yards, 517 attempts, 8.1 yards per attempt, 561 attempts at 9.6 yards per attempt would have meant 5,386 yards for Purdy. So if he had similar attempts to, Garcia, he'd add another, 1,100 yards. I mean, it's just insane, the efficiency. And Matt, you brought up, his yards per attempt. I did a quick X search of yards per attempt Brock Purdy, and Jordan Elliott, Splash Cousin, has this post. He will finish with the highest single season yards per attempt in NFL history with at least 400 attempts. The only other quarterback with a higher single season yards per attempt since the merger is Kurt Warner, who averaged 9.9 yards per attempt on 347 pass attempts back in 2000. So insane numbers.
Isn't that wild when we think about how the league has changed, that the greatest show on turf and he only threw the ball 340 something times or 360 something times? Yeah. That's wild to me. It shows how much the game has changed. I mean, they obviously went to Marshall Faulk a whole ton, but you're talking about Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, and all those guys. And, 300, that's so baffling to me that they only threw that many times.
Doesn't even qualify for the stat. I mean, you have to add the qualifier to include Kurt Warner in the stat. So, yeah, it is insane. But it's really impressive. And since we're basically at the end of the year, next week, the 49ers have one game left. Who knows how much they'll play. It's just so cool to sit back and look at what the 49ers did this season. They were the first team in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard passer, and then 3 players at least have 1,000 yards have at least 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Kittle topped 1,000 yards receiving on Sunday. Ayuk is close to over 1,300, I believe. Debo has 1,000 total scrimmage yards. Christian McCaffrey has 2,000 scrimmage yards. I mean, Mike, are we witnessing one of the greatest offenses we've ever seen in NFL regular season?
Absolutely. And I don't think it's like everyone's like, oh, can Kyle do what he did in Atlanta? And I think he's shattering it. Like, I don't know what the numbers were that year that Matt Ryan had the MVP, but these numbers have to be going up against that offense because we're scoring and the offense is actually doing the scoring. I think the defense has 1 touchdown on the year. We got a safety. So the defense did give us 2 scores in back-to-back games a couple of weeks ago. But for the most part, it's been all the offense. So you definitely have to give them their props for that, especially when you talk about, how they're winning all these games by double-digit numbers. It's really mind-blowing when you think about it. I mean, the defense was helping out a lot more during the Jimmy Garoppolo days and the Colin Kaepernick days, right? And I'm not going to say he's not getting the help. The defense is still good. Let me be clear with what I'm saying. But the defense isn't putting up points the way that, the team was doing it in the past. And so I really, really love that it's happening for him.
Yeah. And this comment here from me and Sharp, Debo's close to 1,000 receiving as well. He is. He needs 129 yards in week 17. I don't think he's going to get that, unfortunately. He needed to have a big game versus Washington to make it possible. If he needed like 30, maybe. Unfortunately, he only had about 35 yards Sunday in DC, so he's definitely not going to get that. But he has 1,000 scrimmage yards, so it's just really impressive what the 49ers have been able to do on offense.
Were you guys concerned that Debo couldn't get like open downfield? Like 2 of them were like little shuffle passes behind the line of scrimmage. Are you guys concerned that he couldn't get open down the field against these that beat up secondary? I mean, they were on their 3rd and 4th stringer at corner. They lost one during the game, and Debo not getting any looks downfield. I don't know if that's alarming to you guys or not, but how'd you guys feel about that?
Go ahead, Matt. You can go first.
I feel like Kyle put together a game plan that was like, it was a Jimmy Garoppolo special, that game plan. It was, hey, let's go. I know we've been clicking on all cylinders. I know the offense has been pretty prolific, but let's go out there and just take care of business, try to get this over with quickly. That way we can just move on. And it was kind of a telltale day when it was the Christian McCaffrey show on that first like drive and a half, where Purdy didn't really throw the ball that much, other than the the little shovel pass to Debo and one or two more to Kittle. But like much of the season, I think it's been much more Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle type of day for them. And I don't know if it's Debo not getting open or if that's just not the routes that Brock Purdy's looking for. So I wouldn't read too much into it, because every now and again you'll see like the Arizona game where it's like, no, Brock Purdy's looking his way, throws that back shoulder, allows Debo to make a play. And there's been plenty where Debo's actually been open and able to run. I just think this was one of those games where he's had a few where he's just not targeted as much for whatever reason.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I know the Commanders' secondary is beat up. They were without their 2 starting corners, and then they lost Tariq Castro-Fields during the game, former 49er, by the way. But I got to give them credit. That was pretty sticky coverage. I mean, that deep ball to Ayuk that Purdy threw along the right sideline, beautiful ball, just a dot. That was as good as coverage as you'll see in the NFL. So I know that they weren't their starters. I know they were backups to backups. But I got to tip my hat to them, because at the end of the day, they were covering the 49ers receivers really well. And maybe it was a case of the 49ers like, yo, we're up. I'm not giving it my all. I'm not going to stress too much. Maybe that was the case. I don't know. But it was impressive on their end. But like Matt said, I'm not too concerned about it. One, it seemed like the 49ers were trying to get the quick game more out. The strength of this Washington defense, even though they've traded both Montez Sweat and Chase Young, in my opinion, is still their defensive line. So I think Kyle was trying to make sure Purdy wasn't getting hit or getting pressured too much. And on top of that, if we're being honest, that was never really Debo's game. Like, his game has never really been that downfield, get open type thing. Ayuk has developed into that very nicely. Debo will definitely hit you with a couple of those, every now and then, but that's not his bread and butter, in my opinion. Is there anything else on this? Oh, we got to talk about Christian McCaffrey getting hurt. Oh, sorry, Mike. Was there something else you wanted to add?
I was just going to ask while we were on the wide receivers.
Yes, please.
I love Terry McLaurin. He's been one of my guys since he was in the draft. Would you guys take him over either one of our starting wide receivers? Over.
Oof. That's tough.
I think that in an individual sense, you can make a case for one or the other or whatever, because McLaurin's been a very, very, very good wide receiver. But I think that the dynamic that Ayuk and Deebo Samuel have, you kind of have to take that chemistry into account and how they work off each other. So in that sense, I don't think I can make that move, just because they're complementary to each other in a lot of ways. But based off of Terry McLaurin's comments, we might not have to worry about that too much. I mean, he seems like he would like to have a good team behind him at some point. So
let's read these comments real quick. It's not too long of a paragraph. Let me share the screen here, so bear with me. Let me make sure this is fine. All right. So he was asked about playing a team as difficult as the 49ers with the players on the team he knows are playing for a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Washington's out of playoff contention. He said, it's definitely tough. I mean, you want to be a part of something that's sustainable and you're winning and competing at a high level. They've got a great staff over there. They've got great players. You can tell that they love playing together. They do a great job of getting everybody involved. Defense is flying around. They have fun. I got to spend some time with a lot of those guys. Like 6 or 7 of them made the Pro Bowl last year. I really got to be around them, and it kind of reminds me of a little bit at Ohio State. You know what I mean? The kind of culture that what they have and everything. You see why they have the success that they do. When you're going against teams like that, you got to play not perfect, but you got to make the most of every opportunity. You can't turn over the ball. You got to extend drives and score in the red zone. I think top to bottom, they have all pro players at every level. You got to give them credit for building that team and for players going out there and executing. Hopefully I can be a part of something like that, but I'm just focused on myself, my world, and my journey, and I'm going to keep working to be the best player I can be. That was an interesting quote. Matt, I know you shared your thoughts. Mike, what did you think when you heard this?
That's what got me thinking about, is he saying he wants to come here? It's kind of like he really he enjoys the camaraderie and he wants to be a good player on a good team. So that's why I was asking. Like, I know that the 49ers exercised the 5th-year option for Brandon Ayuk. I know Debo's got the contract already. I don't know if they're going to be able to extend Ayuk next season. And so I was just wondering if he would be a guy that would come in place of Ayuk. Maybe I don't know. Who do you think would be cheaper to get
out of him or Ayuk?
Yeah.
Well, his contract. When was his contract extended? Last year? He got the same contract time as Debo, right?
As Debo, yeah. So 2 years ago.
2 years ago. I mean,
McLaurin might be cheaper at that point, yeah.
But then you got to consider picks,
right?
So,
yeah.
In my opinion, it's not worth giving up Ayuk because I mean, look behind you, Mike. Like that chemistry that Matt touched on with Debo and Ayuk, Purdy and Ayuk have something special. Like when that's developed, and we've watched it develop over this entire season, going back to last season. In my opinion, with a young blossoming quarterback, if you have a receiver who's growing with them at the same time and they're both turning into really good to elite players, you do everything you can to keep that together. So even as good as Terry McLaurin is, and I would love to have him, there's no way I would let Ayuk walk out this door. I see Ben asking me to flash the shirt. It's I think I got it from the Levi's 49ers team store. It's a NFL Blitz Christian McCaffrey shirt. But yeah, that quote was dope. I appreciated Terry McLaurin saying that. He's one of the greatest, and he burnt, was it DeAndre Lenore on Sunday? Lenore lined up to press him, didn't press him, and then gets beat immediately. And then 2 plays later, or the next play, he's giving up a touchdown back of the end zone. So Terry played well, and he always plays well. And I think he's going to have another 1,000-yard, season. So really impressive. But all right, let's get into Christian McCaffrey's injury. He played, I want to say, most of the first half, and then got hurt in the third quarter, if I remember correctly. Was diagnosed with a calf strain, did not return to the game. Most of the game, the second half, he was getting it rubbed out, heating pad on it, yada, yada, yada. But Elijah Mitchell came in and played well. He had, I want to say, 70-something yards rushing. He had 17 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. Matt, since you're a medical expert here, obviously Christian's not going to play Sunday against the Rams, but is there any concern long-term? I know a tear or a strain is like a tear, right? So I don't know what level.
A very microscopic tear. I'm not too concerned about it, mainly because they were like Christian was trying to get it taped up and get it worked on, and he is maniacal with how he preps, and he was ready to come back into that game. So you hold him out the second half of that game. He's going to get a lot of treatment coming into this week. He's going to get another week to rest because the 49ers wrapped up the 1 seed. By the time the divisional round is back, he's going to be good to go. I don't think there's any long-term concern. And actually, the fact that Elijah Mitchell played so well is a boon in favor of the 49ers, because if you can just keep pounding teams, especially when, the talent gap closes substantially in the playoffs, and a lot of the teams that the 49ers would be playing, particularly in the NFC, don't do well with smash mouth football against their defense. The 49ers can run the ball. It's going to be, I don't want to say an easy path, but it should be a clear path for the 49ers to make it and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
I saw a tweet, and I tried to correct the person who tweeted. I think it was our SF 49ers on Twitter, but he posted the whole, like the playoffs and what they look like. And he said at the end of it all, at the end of his tweet, he said, let me see if I can find it. He said that the Niners would then face the highest seed. And I said, I think you meant the lowest. And he was like, well, I copied this straight from, did he say ESPN or NFL.com? But either way, it said that we would play the highest seed remaining after wild card round. And I know that they made changes to the playoff layout when they added the 7th team, but since when does the number 1 seed play the highest seed? I thought it was always the lowest seed.
It is. So right.
Okay, so wherever he copied it from was an error then. Is it okay?
Yeah. It's a typo. The 49ers will play the lowest seed remaining out of I think right now it looks like it's like Philly, Tampa, Dallas, Detroit. No, that can't be right. Green Bay, Dallas. I forget who.
Or the Rams.
I don't have it in front of me. Or the Rams. Yeah.
The Rams right now are 6th, And the Eagles are 5th, Rams are 6th, and the Packers right now are 7th.
There you go.
So,
yeah, it's highest remaining seed versus lowest remaining seed. So it's not like reshuffled necessarily. It's not necessarily a reseed, but it is highest versus lowest remaining. That's why you get those 49ers will play either blah 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 or blah blah blah, right? Whoever's the lowest remaining seed. So yeah.
We got another super chat here from our guy Sean. Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio are the same person, I swear. What do y'all think about Dalvin Cook's release? Do you think Feliciano Tom Sula becomes permanent? Pray for Canaan, ear infection, and flu.
Canaan.
Little
man's got an ear infection. And he's got
Sorry to hear that,
so
brother.
definitely be praying for him. Yeah, little man is going to be doing good. I like Ron Rivera. I get the ties to Carolina with the Jack Del Rio thing. Defensive-minded guys. It's just something about Ron Rivera. I don't know if it's because of the Bears and Singletary. I don't know what it is, but I've always just liked Ron Rivera. He seems like a very straight shooter, former player, and just, he's going to go out there and trust his offense to do what they do. I like coaches that know this is my specialty. I'll work on this, and they hire the appropriate staff people. Ron Rivera with Eric Bieniemy, I think if they had a solid quarterback, and that's not a shot at Sam Howell, but they were literally trying to bench him. He's been benched multiple times throughout the season, and they wanted Brissett to start the game and all, so I think that they're still in the hunt or looking for a good quarterback, and they'll probably get one in the draft this year. But it's just I'm not going to say that they're the same as Jack Del Rio. I never bought the hype behind Jack Del Rio. So, it is what it is. So that's what I got on that.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for the offense, in my opinion. CMC went out with the calf strain. Mitchell came in, played well. Ayuk had another 100-yard outing, his 7th of the season. George Kittle goes over 1,000 yards on the season, joining Ayuk. Debo had a touchdown classified as a pass. Shout out to Kyle on that one. It was just kind of little toss in the backfield. But like Matt said, it was kind of a Jimmy-esque game in the sense that, the stats didn't really match, but that's okay because it was a great bounce-back game for Brock Purdy. I agree with Ian Sharp here. Jennings will probably be gone. Unfortunately, I see a team like Carolina giving Jennings a lot of money.
A good possession receiver for a young team. I wouldn't be mad at something like that, or even seeing him end up in Houston, a possession guy for Stroud. But my question is about, I was trying to do the game live and I wasn't home. So my Wi-Fi connection the game was a little glitchy at times on our Patreon while we were watching it. And when I did a show with Wayne today, he said that when McCaffrey first went out, they said it was like a hamstring, something in his thigh. And then all of a sudden they switched and they were working his calf instead. These things aren't linked at all. So how did you guys see that at all? Were they working on his thigh at any point?
I would check the source. No disrespect, but they didn't mention anything in the game until they mentioned the calf. And he actually carried no injury designation for quite a while. They didn't mention it. They kept showing him getting worked on, but the announcers made it a point to be like, we haven't heard any injury designation yet, so we'll keep you updated. But there's nothing about the hamstring at all. There was, I don't know if it was another player. There might have been another player with a hamstring issue late in the game, but it wasn't Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the defense. Mike, by the way, I saw Nothing But Niners posted on X 2 weeks ago. The Titans reached out to linebacker Curtis Robinson, offering a roster spot, and he declined, stating that he wanted to see the season through with the 49ers, even if that meant remaining on the practice squad, per Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports. That speaks volumes. I mean, what the 49ers are doing here, a guy could have gotten an active roster spot over on the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, Rand Carthon, there's a connection there, their general manager. And he said, no, thanks. I'm going to stay here and be on the practice squad here with the 49ers. If that doesn't tell you the environment, the energy, just the culture here, I don't know what does. I mean, it was really cool to see. Shout out to Curtis Robinson. I don't know if you have anything to add. I saw your post. I wanted to share it. I had a note here to read it.
Yeah, no. So it's pretty cool that, one, you get more money if you're not on the practice squad, if they bump you up to the active roster. So I think this guy knows like there's something special brewing in the locker room, and I'm going to get this ring even as a practice squad guy. I don't care. I'm going to go out here and get this ring with the 49ers. And plus, I really do believe, like what Terry McLaurin's quote was, it's the camaraderie. These guys play hard for each other and they have fun while doing it. It's one thing to get some scrapes and bumps and bruises. It's another thing to get those while you're winning. All players in the NFL are beat up right now, right? And so, but if we're going to win, we got the number 1 seed and all that. There's no way I'm leaving to go to the Titans, who may or may not make the playoffs at all. Like I'm going to stay my ass right here, and go out here and get this dub. And when they call my number, I'm going to be ready. So I like that. That just speaks to what we have going on inside the building here.
DJ Malone says, the real question I want to ask, how much are we going to see Sam Darnold against the Rams? I kind of want to see what he looks like in the event something were to happen to Brock. I mean, I would imagine we're going to see at least a half, but to be fair, we're not going to see him play that half with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. It's probably going to look a lot like we saw in the preseason, where he's going to be playing with Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Charlie Warner. If we see Sam Darnold, I can't imagine we're seeing the rest of the 49ers starting offense, at least the weapons. That's my take. I don't know. But I'm interested.
I think it'll be the 49ers will start all their players, and then it's going to be like start them, then sit them after a while. So I don't think you can go 2 weeks without letting them, you don't want them to get rusty by going 2 weeks without game action. Maybe like a first half. Treat it like preseason game number 3 or whatever, where you go like the first half and then sit everybody out, and then you're ready to go.
That's been exactly my take. I am petrified of the starters getting 3 weeks off. I've seen it before with Peyton Manning's teams when he was with the Colts and they got the number 1 seed locked up in week 15, and they go, they start going out there for 1 quarter. They don't play the last game. We saw Sean McVay do it when they had the number 1 seed a couple years ago. And he set his guys, and they were 1 and done in the postseason that year. And I believe that was with Jared Goff. Yeah, it was definitely with Jared Goff. They were 1 and done that offseason. They got to the postseason and lost that very first game because they didn't play the week before. Then they had the bye week, and then they played 3 weeks off. Is just too much time for anybody. I mean, you got the football callus thing is a real thing, and these guys got to stay loose. You can do all the running and all that you want, but it's not the same as going out there and bracing for contact and getting hit and holding up piles and all that stuff. So some of these guys are going to have to get out there. I'm going to be interested to see if you guys had to pick 3 players that definitely weren't going to play on the offensive side of the ball. Who would those 3 players be for you guys if you were to pick 3 players to not play at all?
Well, I know McCaffrey is not going to play. The other 2 that I might hold would be Deebo and Kittle. I don't want Trent Williams sitting out if you're going to play Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Because it's too much of a risk to put in a backup tackle like Jalen Moore or somebody like that, and you're leaving Brock Purdy a chance to get hit. I think that you kind of just keep, as long as Brock Purdy plays, that's when Trent plays. The minute you pull Brock Purdy, I don't give a shit if Sam Darnold gets lit up like a Christmas tree. Like, I don't care. But you got to protect Brock Purdy. Kittle, just because he took some big shots against the Commanders, particularly there was that one pass that he caught over the middle, and he stayed in the game, but like he took a pretty hard shot to his thigh. And Kittle is one of those guys where even Kyle Shanahan said it, that dude goes 110%, and he just doesn't know any other way. So to protect him, I would probably pull him or not play him. And then, man, dang, I don't even know if I would sit Deebo, though, because Deebo has conditioning issues, and I don't want him having 3 weeks off.
That was my whole thought. Yeah.
It would be McCaffrey, Kittle, and Colt McKivitz, because even if you replace him, it's going to get better. So we'll go with that.
I was tempted to say Trent, but I do agree with you, Matt, that if you're going to play Purdy, you want Trent out there. Maybe you're just going to play him a quarter. Maybe you play them a little over a quarter. But Trent, and yeah, I think Deebo should play however much the starters
maybe Banks to help him with the toe a little more.
That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, I think the guys who were kind of banged up. But Debo,
I feel like line is a little more easy to like miss some time and then get back in there because you're essentially it's not the same, right? You're
yes,
following a set assignment rather than diagnosing routes and stuff on the fly. I feel like you can kind of plug in an offensive lineman a little easier. Sorry to interrupt, Zach.
no, you're good. But I agree. And with receiver, it's so like stretchy. Not what's the word I'm looking for? Like you go on like a periods, like it's so hot and cold, like so
Streaky.
Thank you. Yes, streaky. Like when you have it, you have it. When you don't, you don't. And Debo's been playing well. I would hate for him to sit out and then kind of, be out of rhythm, out of sorts when he gets back in the playoffs. He's kind of been known for that, for being honest. But then again, you know what everybody's saying, Mike? This is odd year Debo Samuel. Odd year, even though I guess it's 2024 now, but we're still calling it the 2023 season. So odd year Debo Samuel's going hard. And watching that playoff game in 2021, the championship game, that man basically dragged Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense to that championship game and almost dragged him to a Super Bowl, but they couldn't get to it. But he played very hard that 2021 season. All right, I wanted to get into the defense, the other side of the ball. And there's somebody I want to give flowers because Matt, I think this podcast has been probably the most critical of this specific player this entire year, and that's Charvarius Ward.
Yeah.
And he got another pick on Sunday, and he's playing at an extremely high level. I think he has a career high in picks. He's up near the top of the ranks with picks. We saw Fred Warner saying he deserves to be an All-Pro. He was the highest graded corner in week 17 with a 91.5 grade per PFF. Fourth highest all season with an 85.6 grade. He allowed 4 yards all game long, had 1 interception, allowed a 30.6 passer rating, and had a 91.7 cover grade per PFF. He's been playing very well. And we saw what he did against DK Metcalf, the first time that Thursday night Thanksgiving game, just took him out the game. Did something similar in Philly to A.J. Brown. So I just want to give the man his flowers. He's been playing very, very well. Clearly his best season. Matt, did you have any thoughts on his performance Sunday and kind of his season as a whole now that we're almost done with the year?
Listen, it's only weird if it doesn't work. I feel like I should just keep talking crap about him so he plays well to prove me wrong. So no, all jokes aside, he's played a lot better. There was a game or two where he really kind of got touched up, and early in the season, particularly during that 3-game losing streak, I talked a lot about how he was just playing this ridiculously soft coverage and giving up a lot in front of him. And he's tightened that up a little bit. He's been much more direct to the ball. Even if he gives something in front of him, he's closing a lot faster. And so guys aren't getting as many yards. And the turnovers are there. So on top of taking away some of the yardage, he's now getting takeaways as well. Hats off to him. Hats off to the entire defensive backfield. We talk about my love for Michigan. Like Ambry Thomas has really improved. I think he's really improved, and that ever since they made that switch from Isaiah Oliver to Ambry Thomas, the coverage has been a lot better. And shout outs to Ambry Thomas for playing this last game with a cast on. Came into the game with a broken hand. He's going to have surgery, but he should be back for the divisional round, according to Kyle Shanahan. But the fact of the matter is that the entire defensive backfield and wild enough to say, shout out to Logan Ryan, who came in, did a very admirable job. I think it's funny when you can go from Talanoa Hufanga, who was first team All-Pro last year. You get Jair Brown in there, and you don't really have any fall off, right? And then you go to Logan Ryan, who didn't make any splash plays, but I also didn't hear his name called a ton. I think I saw him miss like 1 tackle, but like other than that, I didn't really see him, and that's what you want. If you're, you don't want to see them for the bad things, right? And if you're not going to see him for anything good, then I don't want to see you at all. That's pretty much how I feel about it. And I thought that he did a good job. That defensive backfield as a whole has been really good. That hasn't been the problem for the 49ers defense now, like it was earlier in the year. We'll get to what their problem is right now, which is a little worrying going to playoff time, but the coverage has been really good.
Mike, did you have anything to add on Ward, secondary as a whole?
Yeah, with the Ward thing in particular, you guys are right. I know I know Grant pegs himself as like quality control guy. He calls someone out and then he's like, "Oh, see, I got this guy motivated to play whatever." On this show with you guys, I said that Ward was the third best corner on this team. I mean, he has been getting shots from this channel all season long. And again, it was rightfully so. You're the highest paid corner, and at times you were the biggest liability out there. He's definitely flipped the switch. It turns out he's been playing through a lot of injuries he's been playing through. So, I like that. I like that he's flipped that switch. He deserves it. And I think that we should keep motivating him. No, you're not an all-pro. I haven't seen the announcement yet. No, you're not in the Pro Bowl. I haven't seen the announcement yet. So you haven't earned shit. Go out here and earn it. Until then, you're a disappointment, sir. And I'm saying that to motivate you. I love you, but you're a disappointment, sir. Get out there and keep doing it. Earn it.
You had a question here. Did Lenore getting burnt concern you?
No, it was Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
I was a little upset with the technique. Like you said, he went up to press him and just waffed. And at that point, if you don't make that contact, you're going in one direction while the receiver's going in another. It's not good for anybody. I don't care what your speed is, your 40 time, or any of that. I don't worry about speed when it comes to Lenore. But once McLaurin gets past you, if you don't get hands on him, it is a wrap for you. Like you're playing catch up for the rest of that route, no matter what that route is. And that's exactly what happened on that play. The touchdown. I mean, look, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he let up a touchdown. It's a disappointment." Like that. And this is what I've been saying when I was defending guys like Chris Culliver, Akello Witherspoon. Touchdowns are going to happen on DBs. Those wide receivers get paid more money than those corners for a reason. And so you're not going to hold people out of the end zone all year long. Diamador Lenore is still my favorite corner on the team. That's not going to change. I would have complete faith in him if the game is on the line. I think he would be much more better in his technique in that moment. So.
Okay, I like it.
I'm with Mike on that one. As soon as I saw McLaurin like on the replay that he got a free release, I'm like, oh, no wonder you got burned on that. You can't just let that guy get by you without at least trying to redirect his route within that. It's like, why are you going to go and play press coverage if you're not actually going to press the dude, right? Like at that point, just stick a hand on him, right? Or at least go the Charvarius Ward route. Just hold the shit out of him so he can't even catch the ball. It's 5 yards and a first down, but it ain't 45 yards and a first down. Like, might as well,
Or get right in front of him. Don't do this. Don't press from an angle. Press directly in front of him and make him go left or right so you also have time to recover. Like he just didn't touch him and he just ran straight by. I didn't understand what was going on. I don't even remember if he extended his arms to make the contact with him.
I don't think so.
It was such a weird thing. Like they called it and he didn't do it. It was
like
a
brain fart.
Yeah, you can't half commit to what the assignment is, and that's what he did. And that one got him, and it's all right. It didn't.
And to be fair, that was early, right? Like that was early in the game. He came back. He had a near pick at one point, and then actually had a pick. So he had a good game. He recovered nicely from that.
Yeah. No, it's pretty early on, and it was the only touchdown the 49ers would give up in this game. But let's get into what Matt kind of alluded to, a couple minutes ago. The 49ers' main concern, which was the run defense. Yet again, the game never really got weird. I mean, I know at one point it was like 10-10 or something like that. I think at half it was 13-10. But it seemed like the 49ers couldn't stop the run. I know kind of the overall score doesn't really seem like that. Brian Robinson only had 44 yards.
It was situational though, right?
Exactly. Yes.
It was situational where it's like early on, Brian Robinson's making the 49ers pay. He averaged 4.9 yards a carry. Pretty good, right? Antonio Gibson had 4 carries for 19 yards. Like he was breaking off runs. And it was the timeliness of those runs. It would be a 3rd and short where you need to hold them, and then they give up the first down. And they didn't necessarily capitalize on those drives, but this was about more than the Washington Commanders. This was about the 49ers giving up more rushing yards to a team that was pretty poor overall offensively. When you go into the playoffs, you're going to see teams like the Rams, who can run the ball pretty well potentially. I'm not worried about the Packers. They stink. If they end up playing the 49ers, then I doubt they'd beat the Cowboys, but just in case. But I mean, the most likely scenario is that the 49ers play one of three teams. It'll be Detroit, Philadelphia, or the Rams is going to be. And each of those teams has a way to run the ball. Philadelphia can run the ball. Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery can run the ball. And then you have the Rams, who will use Williams to run the ball and set up Matthew Stafford to just kill him short, So the 49ers really have to tighten that up. And it was just another concerning situation where, no, it wasn't an overwhelming amount of yards. It wasn't like the Cardinals, who rushed for like 200 yards against the 49ers, right? And did it again against the Eagles. This was one of those situations where it's just the timeliness of those runs, where it's like, you know that it's probably going to be a run, and yet you can't sell out and get push up the middle. And they just seem soft up the middle right now. And hopefully in the divisional round, Eric Armstead can be back for that. But if he's not, then they have to figure something out, because it's just simply unacceptable to not be able to hold teams like that.
I think what was more alarming, it wasn't so much the run game as much as it was the running backs as a whole. So Wayne said something also during our show earlier. It was the screens to the running backs that we really it seemed like they were getting 10 yards a carry. Now, Wayne said it felt like they were getting 20. And I get that. As a Niners fan, you watch it, see him get a first down. It's like, oh my God, he's running forever, right? But the screens I went back and watched the second half of the game just tonight. When we started, I had that on the background, and I saw two screen passes to running backs in particular, and they both went for first downs. I don't know what the receiving yards were for the running backs. I don't know if you guys have the stats pulled up. I don't have that over here, but
McLaurin 4 for 61, Curtis Samuel 3 for 33, Brian Robinson 4 for 32, Logan Thomas 3 for 20.
Yeah, it was Robinson
17.
Yeah, it was the Robinson, the two that Robinson had in the second half. And it was like, I could see how that could be problematic for the team. But I mean, it takes a lot to run a screen. You got to have half of your line and your tight end shifting all the way over to wherever you're going to run that screen. And that tires out the offense a lot also. So they can't just do that all game long. But it is definitely a concern of mine as well. So I completely understand where you guys are coming from. The good news is teams have to fully commit to that. And I don't know if anyone's willing to do that for, even a quarter, forget the whole game. I don't know if teams are willing to do that for, if it's an 8-play drive, are you going to run 4 screens? I doubt that you're going to do that to your running back. So I think the Niners have really taken away some of our former weaknesses. That game against Washington, you did see it time and time again, but it wasn't enough to really do any real damage. They finished the game with 10 points, so I'm not overly concerned with it.
I guess the reason why it could be concerning is, yes, Washington wasn't able to capitalize on it, but a better team, like Matt said, a Los Angeles Rams, a Detroit. I want to say a Dallas, but I can't even say that seriously because I don't take the Dallas Cowboys seriously. Could take advantage of it. But I think a lot of this really is just Eric Armstead isn't there in the middle plugging that. And fans like to get on him. He's not a 10-sack guy, yada, yada, yada. That's never been his thing. His thing is plugging the run, shedding that first blocker, and getting to the running back. And when he's not there, the whole unit kind of suffers. So I think it'll be improved.
Well, and you know what else helps is that Eric Armstead's 6'7" and weighs like 270 pounds. Just by sheer taking up space helps out other guys because listen, you ain't running through a gap when a dude that big is standing there. That's how it is, man. That's the laws of physics. So it is a little bit of concern. I'm not concerned about Dallas. We wouldn't see them until the NFC Championship anyway, just because they're the 2 seed as it stands right now, if that holds up, right? But I don't know. The Rams somehow are sneaky to me, and they're a team that's kind of troublesome,
So I don't think the Rams can improve their seeding. They can't get the 5th seed because the Eagles have 11 wins already. They're only at 9. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Any team let's just say they lose this game, they would still finish with those 9 wins, and all the teams underneath them would also finish with 9 wins. What does Green Bay have right now? Are they at 8?
Green Bay's 8 and 8.
Yeah, so they would also finish with 9 wins. I don't think the Rams have much to play for in this game. I could be wrong, but I think that the outcome of this game for both of these teams doesn't matter. Is it possible the Rams even sit some players? We know that that's kind of Sean McVay's thing. He doesn't play his starters in preseason, and we've seen him do it. I mentioned it at the top of the show, right, where he just sits his starters. If he does sit his defensive starters, right, does that change the way you feel about Trent Williams going out there? And then, like, does it change how you feel about this game? Kyron Williams is a really good back that he's coming into his own down the stretch here these last couple of games. He looks like a formidable guy, but I think that they would value him and maybe not want to risk him getting banged up. The Niners don't really injure a lot of players. That's another thing too. Like, I know that sounds crazy, right? Because you don't want to. I personally don't want to see injuries. But the one injury I remember for Washington in this game was a play. Like, after the play, the guy just fell.
He like fainted.
Holmes, yeah. He hugs Trent Williams. They do a helmet tap to each other. They laugh, and then my man just like goes to the pylon and just falls. That was terrifying for me, by the way.
He had a concussion. So
okay.
He got diagnosed after the game with concussion, so it was just a delayed reaction kind of thing.
Got you. He's probably spinning a little bit and like, oh boy, boom, and then they go down. But it's like, if I'm the Rams, I'm not overly concerned about the risk of injury, but it is also like he's a really good back, and they've been looking for that since they got rid of the guy with the 2 bad knees.
Gurley,
Todd Gurley. Yes, they've been looking for a good running back. I just don't know if they even risk him. So I don't know how this game is going to look. I think it's going to be a lot of sloppy football. I don't know if the Niners actually play the whole first quarter the first half with their starters, maybe just the first quarter. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rams do something very similar as well. And the coaches just try to play chess with the pieces that they have out there.
Yeah. All right. By the way, Matt, I was thinking it right when you said it, Armstead size and ace person. It's crazy how big Kinlaw is, and he still gets pushed around. Kinlaw's 6'5", 320, and he's not holding up like Armstead is out there, unfortunately. He gets moved around a lot easier.
I mean, talent does play a little bit of a factor.
Just a smidge in the NFL, right? Just a little bit. And Chrissy asked a question earlier. She said, do players on the practice squad get rings also? Yes, everybody in the building gets rings. The owner has discretion as to who he wants to order rings for. But Jed York has made it known that if they get a ring, everybody in the building is getting one. So I think that's pretty dope as well.
They better send Joe Staley one. That's all I know. They better send Frank Gore one just because, man.
Frank's on the staff, so he's going to get one also. He's officially on the staff, so he's going to get one. They got to figure out something with Joe Staley, sign him as a consultant or something. Yeah. So,
by the way, shout out to the Arizona Cardinals, man. I know we talked about the Cowboys lines. Shout out to the Cardinals. Was it Tracy Sandler who tweeted, they gave the 49ers a home during the pandemic when the county here were being little bitches and wouldn't let the Niners play football here. And Sunday, they take out the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. Jonathan Gannon, I thought you were a corny-ass head coach. Kudos to you. You still could be corny, but kudos to you because you took out your former boss. And I know there was like some weird beef there where the Eagles were trying to report the Cardinals for tampering with Gannon before I don't know what it is, but he clearly wanted that win and he got it. And I had plenty of people replying to my tweets on X, and I would say all the 49ers need is X and X to happen and they get the number 1 seed. Philly's not losing to the Cardinals. Philly's not losing to the I mean, come on, man. I think they've got 1-5, 1-4 in their last 5. So
exactly. What people have to understand is even that win against the Giants, that one that you're talking about, they almost lost that one.
Yep.
I can't guarantee. I would not bet my money on the Eagles and Giants game this final week of the regular season, right? Like the Philadelphia Eagles are a shit show. Yep. They are a shit show. I think one of you guys said it a couple of weeks ago, the most overrated double-digit win team I've ever seen. Yep. And I mean, it's them and the Panthers the year they went 15-1. And the Panthers, we looked at them as a joke because of their strength of schedule. They played literally the worst schedule I've ever seen in my entire life that year. The Eagles now, I will give them some credit with they got wins against Miami, they got wins against Buffalo, they got wins against Kansas City, right? So they went out there and did it against AFC teams.
Yes,
they are a joke inside the NFC, and listen. I hope we get a game against the Eagles because it's going to be the easiest win we get in the postseason in the Kyle Shanahan era.
Yes.
They got a lot of issues over there. I know that there's articles coming out. I know that there's, all kinds of things coming out, and it's just, when you see stuff like Nick Sirianni after the Eagles game, trying to tough guy shit from the tunnel. When you see him like, oh, I hope 57 is out of here. Those antics where you say one thing and you try to establish a culture, but then there's no accountability to yourself. It's this fake tough guy thing. And the players know, man. And you can smooth things over and you can sell people on, after a while based on you winning. But when you're not winning, the fact of the matter is that the Eagles made the Super Bowl last year. And the fact that it's falling apart so quickly in front of our eyes, whether it's the team doesn't trust Jalen Hurts, whether it's the defense giving up 500 yards per game, whether it's Nick Sirianni, not having the ears of the players, whether it's A.J. Brown being upset. I have never seen a Super Bowl contending team come apart at the seams so quickly over losing like that. It's just, I don't know, man. It's wild to see, and I agree with you, Mike. That I think that the Eagles are in shambles. I think they're done.
They can't even send a clear message, right? Like you said, is it that they don't trust Jalen Hurts? You ran down a list of things that could be wrong, and we can't pinpoint it from the outside looking in. So you guys know where I live. I have a lot of buddies who are Eagles fans, and I talked to this one guy, and he's like, Mike, he was like, there was an onside kick to start the half. That just let me know everything that I knew about how they felt about us. And then he said they needed to sustain a drive, kill time, and it was 1st and 20 after a penalty, and they're calling like keepers for Jalen Hurts.
2.
They ran 2 in a row. Yes, they ran them back to back. Like, what are you doing when we have to gain 20 yards?
3rd and 16. Or no, it was 3rd and 20 because they got 4 on the first run, and then they lost 4 in the second. They throw a screen pass to Kenneth Gainwell with Devontae Smith as a lead blocker who gets his ankle rolled up on, and then he's in crutches to end the game to walk out. It's just...
It was mind-blowing, right? And on the same play, you see like a tight end coming in, going off, coming in. Like they're like arguing with each other. No, you got to go. You get out. You come in. They couldn't get shit figured out in the most important drive of the game. That team is unraveling, guys. Like it's you can call the thread whatever you want. It could be Egyptian cotton. It could be freaking wool. I don't care what it is. It's unraveling, and it's unraveling quickly. And I love seeing Sirianni lose. Yep. I love seeing him lose.
Oh, he's so slappable, dude.
I saw somebody say he looks like Alex Smith's brother that steals catalytic converters. And that shit was the funniest. I saw somebody else say he looks like the low res, low graphic coach from Madden, like generic coach. Like it looks like his face didn't load fully.
Yeah.
But all right.
And by the way, they're gonna get all the focus on that. Let's not let the defense skate. Right? Because they've had defensive players come out and say, oh, yeah, I played well, even though the team lost. It wasn't me. Right? They gave up 449 yards to the Arizona Cardinals. They gave up 42 points to the 49ers. They barely squeaked by a New York Giants team that's on its last legs, starting Tommy DeVito, I believe, for that game. I've never seen a Super Bowl contending team that started the season 10-1, right? They were 10-1
till they played us.
Completely unravel. Just at the drop of a hat, which tells me they had no inner strength to begin with. And in a playoff matchup,
yeah, it's over. And speaking of what people look like, I know you said he looks like Alex Smith's brother that's stealing catalytic converters, right? There was a super chat in here from Sean. He said something about, doesn't Feliciano look like, there you go. Doesn't Feliciano look like Tom Sula's sweaty nephew? God's honest truth, I have no idea what Feliciano looks like. I've never seen his face before.
He looks like Tom Sula's sweaty nephew.
Really?
Have you never seen his face?
I don't look at I've never seen what he looks like. I have no idea what Feliciano looks like. But I will say that he's filling in really well.
Here, I'm pulling up a picture.
Yeah, he's doing a good job for the Niners. He can look like whatever he wants to look like, but I had no idea. I guess, okay. I got more Ron Burgundy from Tom Sula, but that's fine. Oh, okay. That one, it looks, God, he looks different in every single picture.
Yeah, yeah.
He looks different in every. I saw it in the other one that you just put up there, but okay, yeah, there, yeah. I can see some Tom Sula resemblance in that one there. So okay, I get it.
I don't know. To me, he looks like Seth Rollins ate Brendan Schaub. Like, that's what he looks
Okay,
like.
I see that. Lastly, on the Eagles, couldn't have happened to a nicer fan base. Absolutely devastated for them. Hopefully, you guys don't cry too loud. Keep your babies up. All right.
They'll just beat the crap out of each other in the stands.
Yeah. Let's get into this chat pack and wrap up tonight. Scrap Rolls, by the way. Cardinals scored touchdowns on every second half possession. No heart, no pride, no class. Fuck Philly. Damn. All right. Chat pack question of the night. And chat, please feel free to answer. We had a question similar to this before, but we didn't have this one specifically. If you could take any job just for 1 month, what job would you like to have? Assume that you would have the skills and knowledge to perform adequately, and you would reap the benefits of the pay.
All right, I'll go first. I had this, when I was young, I had this terrifying fear of heights. And for the most part, I feel like I'm over it. I go to balconies, and if the place I was at, we were on the 5th floor, and the balcony was like paper thin. The railing was rattling, and I purposely went and leaned on it just to make sure I was over my fear of heights. I still felt a little nauseous in my stomach when I touched the railing, and I looked down, it's just ground. I'm like, oh God, okay, maybe I'm not over my fear of heights, right? The guys who were up there on the scaffolds, like on the skyscrapers in New York, just like cleaning windows and shit like that. I think that if I could do it for a month and knew that I would know what I was doing and like be safe and secure, I would do it just to get over my fears. Have you guys ever seen like window cleaners on skyscrapers? Have you ever seen how they do their jobs?
It's crazy. It's absolutely
I have
crazy.
No idea what they get paid, but how do you get life insurance if that's what you do for a living? Like what's your premium? That has got to be that shit is insane. And then I've seen like old black and white like pictures of people like just up there, forget like window cleaning, just building these things. Yep. And they're walking around on like these little ass boards like it's nothing. Like they're just up there just walking around. I don't think that I have it in me to do it, but that would be a job if I knew for sure I would be safe and I would like they said, have the skills to do it adequately. Like, all right, let's just do it and see what it's like. The other job that I would have, not to take away, hopefully it's not what anyone's going to say. I've heard the money is really good because of what you're breathing in, but working in the mines. I know a lot of people who were like, all right, I'm just going to go out there and do this for 6 months and just bank everything. And they get hundreds of thousands of dollars apparently for doing those jobs, working in the coal mines and shit like that. That would probably be another one that I would do for a month solid and see what it was like.
Scott says, I know a guy who cleaned the Sears Tower year round, $75 an hour in the mid 80s.
Wow.
Damn.
In the mid 80s. What do you think that pay is now? Like what's that double. Equate to now? Holy shit.
Mine, I'm assuming I had the skills and I want that pay. I want to work on an oil rig out in the ocean. I've seen these videos of these dudes wrapping that chain around that shit. I'm terrified of heights too, but just the pay is insane. And then I want to be the type of guy that would be able to, looks like you got some soft hands there, brother. I just worked an 80-hour unpaid shift. You got some soft hands there, brother. I would love to be able to walk around and tell people that. So that's my answer. Matt, what do you got?
I think, man, if I had the skills and I could guarantee that I would be safe and it would get me a little bit of glory, I think I would be a Formula One driver.
Oh,
because
shit.
that could be potentially hazardous. We've seen like race car drivers die. We've seen them get into wrecks. We've seen them get injured or whatever. But I think that I would like to drive ridiculously fast. And, if I knew that I could get out scot-free and not end up like Niki Lauda on fire or something like that, I feel like that would be something that, that Netflix series is amazing. And, just watching that whole thing, the Formula One cars are incredible. There was recently that Formula One event in Las Vegas that looked super dope. It just looks super fun. And it's kind of a cop-out because it's like the famous answer. And I guess my backup answer would be like a crab fisherman, right? Like Deadliest Catch. because those guys apparently make their nut in like a couple weeks, and then they're done. So
I got a question for you, Matt.
Yeah,
a question for rebuttal to what you said. And forgive my ignorance. Which cars are faster? It looks like Formula One, but NASCAR.
Formula One cars are faster,
and they handle better too, right?
They're faster. They're more aerodynamically stable. Stock cars, there's certain tracks. So like Daytona, they run with restrictor plates, which lowers how fast they can go because you can get really fast. And what happened before restrictor plate racing was that they would go around and you get some car that gets kind of starts tipping or whatever, or gets hit and bumped. And then they're going so fast and they don't have the downforce in the car because of the rear spoiler like Formula One cars. Those stock cars were actually like flying like just a piece of garbage in the wind, right? Yeah. But in terms of pure line speed, the Formula One cars are faster.
Wow. Yeah.
A backup answer for me, by the way, would be like a logger in like Canada. I've seen these shows on Netflix where these guys go out to like the side of the hills and they have these chains and they, hook up these giant pieces of wood and they get dragged. It's insane, man. But like Matt said, they make crazy money the year's worth in, 2-3 months. So, yeah.
You just like want to get out of the suit and do some rugged shit with your hands. Like it sounds like you just want to go out there and rough it, right? Like
why the hell not? If you have the skills and you're getting the pay, let's do it,
as
man.
Well.
Yeah. But all right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Reddit Gold Standard podcast. I appreciate all you guys rocking with us this Tuesday evening or night, depending on where you are. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you're watching on X, make sure you like, repost the post, hit follow button. All of our personal handles are on the screen for X. Make sure you follow 49ers Hive and RGS Pod. Mike, I'm sure the folks already know, but let them know in case they don't where to find you.
Yeah. I'm going to start with Patreon. We got a new episode dropping tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you guys check it out. It's all about the importance of home field advantage and teams having to come to our house. So make sure you guys check that out, patreon.com. And if you don't already, guys, if you're watching on the 49ers Hive channel, check us out on the YouTube page, Nothing But Niners. And thank you all for the continued support.
All right, Mike, thanks for joining as always. Matt, thank you very much. And please carry us out of here.
Absolutely. Listen, week 18 is upon us. The 49ers can go out with a bang, or they can just decide to rest people. I think there's somewhere in between, that's that nagging, we got the first seed, but it's a division opponent. We'll see what they do. Fact of the matter is the 49ers have the number 1 seed, and they're going to be raring to go when the divisional round comes around. So they're going to take on all comers. Doesn't matter who it's going to be. Expect a deep playoff run for the Niners. I know I can't wait. So for Zach, for Mike, for myself, thank you as always for joining us. We'll be back here with a Rams preview this week at some point. But that being said, until next time, go Niners.